Pets Add Life, your guide to the latest in pet trends, products, and the joy of the human-animal bond, with Kristen Levine and Chris Bonifati, powered by the American Pet Products Association and Dog TV.
Welcome to lucky episode 13 of the Pets Add Life podcast. Can you believe we've been doing this for 13 shows?
I can. I've been there for all of them.
Yes, and I'm Kristen Levine, your co-host from Pet Living, and we've got Chris Bonifati from APPA, which stands for
the American Pet Products Association, and we are here, as always, to bring you two wonderful stories, two intriguing guests, two amazing product recommendations, and to answer two of your questions. So I believe without further ado, we'll get right on into it.
Kristen and Chris present Storytime.
All right, Chris, it is story time. And I this is a story I came across, and I said to myself, I hope Chris doesn't have the same story because I think it's really.
We're about to find out.
We're going to find out. Okay. So I just read that a Florida woman was surprised to find an iguana in her toilet.
Not my story, but whoa. Talk about surprises.
I know. I mean, I've heard of snakes in the toilet, and I've never heard about an
snakes
iguana.
On a plane.
Snakes on a right. No,
but never iguanas in a toilet.
Yeah, her name's Michelle. She lives in South Florida, and she went downstairs to make a snack, and she put popcorn in the microwave, and she went to use the bathroom, and she opens the door, and there's an iguana sitting, climbing out of the toilet.
Like it was a hot tub.
Like it was a cold tub. It was doing a cold plunge.
A cool bath, yeah. A cold plunge. It's crazy that iguanas in Florida, they're like the squirrels around here. I mean, I remember we were hanging out at a beach sort of near West Palm, and from out of the dunes, we saw an iguana just book it, and they run kind of like
run funny,
like a confused toddler, and he just books it into the ocean to go swimming. So they are like incredibly okay with people around there.
Yeah,
but a toilet that would not fly.
Yeah.
I'd have to sell the apartment.
Well, apparently it's not unusual because she called out a guy from Iguana Lifestyles, which is a wildlife removal service. He came out, he rescued the iguana, and he said that was the second one already for the week. So
that's the second toilet iguana?
Yes. So if you're living in South Florida, you might want to be sure to check the toilet before you sit down. I'm just saying. You never know.
Yes.
But it was a Mexican spiny tail iguana.
One thing I know, if you're living down there, that my parents do when they, kind of leave for the summer, they saran wrap the toilet closed.
No.
So that
really?
Nothing can get in there while they're away, because they had an experience. I don't remember if it was a snake or a rat. Something found its way in there, and it was unpleasant. So they have begun doing that when they summarize. That's summer, the season eyes the home to come back up north here.
Wow,
so,
you got a problem when you're saran wrapping the toilet to prevent critters from coming out.
Well, I understand the fear. now I check twice, even though I'm in New York. Iguana, that would not be okay.
No, you worried about pizza wrap.
I've got a fun one too.
Yeah,
I've got a fun one too. This is fun. So this story started as a tragedy. This family in Utah, their cat went missing, which horrible when that happens. So they're looking. The cat was chipped. The moral of the story is going to be get your animal chipped.
Right.
So the cat was chipped and nothing was turning up, and it had been about a week when suddenly they get a ping on the chip from a vet in California. And this is a family in Utah.
Okay.
The cat was found in an Amazon warehouse. The cat had snuck in. So you know how Amazon does like the wardrobe thing where they'll send you, if you're buying like a pair of pants and you don't know what size you are, they'll send you 5 sizes and you just send back the ones you don't use.
Right.
They had done something like that, and the cat snuck in quietly into the box, and the box had gotten sealed up and shipped out.
Are you serious?
And luckily, I'm serious, for everybody involved, the cat had survived 6 days in the box.
Oh my gosh.
The person who the Amazon warehouse found the cat, immediately called animal services, who came. The cat was completely fine except for losing some weight and some mild
Well, I
dehydration.
would
And the
say,
family flew out to California to bring the cat home. So they've been reunited and everybody is happy. But can you imagine accidentally
did you say
shipping your cat?
6 days? 6 days in a
6 days, they
box.
think. Yeah.
Wow. And nobody along
Yeah.
the way, none of the postal workers or whoever handles the package before it gets to back to Amazon, nobody. That's
I
weird.
have to imagine that this cat is not very vocal because it was packed up. Like it's not like my cat who
Oh,
yells every time it sees a human being.
right.
So I just
Oh,
can't imagine. So if you're sending stuff back in Amazon and you've got a cat who enjoys a nice cardboard box, just take a peek. Just take
poor
a peek real
kitty.
quick. And the only reason this is a happy story is the animal was chipped. So get your pet chipped, just in case something does happen and the animal is lost or misplaced. Somebody will
Yeah.
be able to help.
Yeah. And shout out to so I assume it was an Amazon worker that actually took
Yeah,
the cat, right, to get chipped, to get scanned and all that. So thank goodness for good Samaritans.
absolutely. So, wow.
That's a weird one.
Our first guest is Susan Lee Vick, who is the CEO of Joybound. I've met Susan before. I've been over to their facilities. It's an amazing program. She's an amazing woman. Let's go ahead and have a listen.
Beyond the Leash, exploring the untold stories of pet passion and professionalism.
Joining us next is Susan Lee Vick. You are the CEO of Joybound Pets and People. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much, Kristen. It's a true pleasure.
I have to say, first of all, Joybound, what a fantastic name for what you do. Can you give us a little bit of background on the name and tell us about Joybound?
I would love to. Well, historically in the animal welfare space, that space where those of us who love pets want to take care of them, has approached its work from here's the big problem that you're going to help us solve. And we're choosing to approach it from here's that solution, that guiding light that informs everything we do, that motivates us to solve those problems. And that is the joyful bond between people and pets. So hence Joybound People and Pets is our
Absolutely.
name and what we do.
Love it. Great name. And Chris, you've actually been there.
I have. I had the opportunity to take a tour of the beautiful Walnut Creek facilities, and I was absolutely blown away, not just by the adoption and rehoming, but the entire suite of services that Joybound is capable of offering. So, Susan, I understand you guys are more than just an adoption center. Do you want to talk a little bit about your programs and what
Yes,
you
I would
offer?
love to. And it's true. Adoption, rescue, and adoption are at the core of everything we do. When we think about the ways we serve the community, of course, we have a broad suite of what we would call community solutions to keep pet families intact. And oftentimes this means giving them access to essential care and services with dignity. Not everyone in today's economy can cover the extraordinary costs of vet care or even pet food, or even pet grooming. And we're providing affordable opportunities, free or low cost, in all those spaces. Most excitingly, we send out a core of therapy animals in our Pet Hug Pack to touch and brighten the lives of people who need that cheer the most, in hospitals, in senior centers, in schools, where we see children learning to read more easily with a dog to cuddle while they do it. No judgment from a dog. And then most powerfully in our shelter to service program that creates one magnificent solution to two challenges. One, overcrowded animal shelters with dogs who need homes and fulfilling relationships. And then also veterans, first responders, survivors of violent crime who suffer from conditions like post-traumatic stress or isolation, depression, anxiety, who would benefit from a psychiatric service dog. So with that, broad new suite of services that we can offer, we really think that we're moving the needle toward mental health, better mental health for America.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about mental health on this show, obviously observing Mental Health Awareness Month. So I actually want to key in a little bit on that shelter to service program, specifically around the training and upbringing of these dogs. It's a very difficult job. for the dog themselves to be capable of providing that kind of care. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to bring a dog in, get them trained, get them ready to provide that type of service?
Absolutely, Chris. It begins with that very first moment of encounter when our rescue teams go out to the shelters in our community, up and down through California, and evaluate of dogs that are available for adoption. And we're looking for dogs who are affiliative, who are naturally drawn to that bond, and who demonstrate comfort around human beings and around other dogs. And so that first selection, we bring those dogs to our Walnut Creek campus, where in our new program, they immediately, and I say new program because there's some innovations I'm talking about now, they immediately go into 2 weeks of a loving home foster who gets to know them better, gets to feel for, are they housebroken? Do they walk well on a leash? Are they okay not counter cruising in the kitchen like my pup? And with that first assessment, if they pass that first assessment, they'll move into a 12-week intensive training program that is conducted by volunteers who are preparing these shelter dogs for partnering and further training with their program participant, a veteran or someone else. And in that twice a week, 12 weeks of training, every dog is a winner. 40% of them will go on to the shelter to service program. The other 60% will simply have a full 12 weeks of training and be superstar adoption candidates in our shelter. So it's a win-win for everybody. When that magical selection has been made and those 40% are presented to our participants and matched, they spend 2 full weeks in close training with one another and deepening that bond. And in that case, in that time, that interval we call team training, they're actually the participants rather are doing the most learning. The dogs are probably a little smarter than we humans at that stage. And at that point, at the end of the 2 weeks, the participants and the service dog in training now go home and rejoin us for a weekly personalization training meeting that will last through 6 full months. And at that point, they are officially credentialed as real live service dogs and can be out in the world anywhere, changing the lives of those they're serving.
That is fantastic. So I would imagine that those volunteers also have been highly trained.
Yes, that's absolutely
to
right,
prepare
Kristen.
these dogs for their people.
That's a very insightful observation. They are a very special volunteer corps. They are developing skills of their own. And in fact, you have reminded me to mention that one of the most exciting innovations about this model is that any volunteer foster trainer who goes through 2 full training cycles in this program is eligible through hours and the fact that in their second cycle they'll be allowed to co-teach. We will pay if they are from any cohort with systemic barriers to employment, veterans, formerly incarcerated people, survivors of domestic violence. We will actually pay and sponsor them to take the certified professional dog trainers exam and give them a stipend for transportation. So they're receiving real vocational training, even as they are giving to these dogs and to these program participants.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. You really have found a way to uplift everybody involved in the process in sort of like a no one gets left behind mentality. Can you talk a little bit? I'm sure you have 1 million success stories, but I'm sure there's a few in your mind that stick out. Can you find one for us of just an amazing impact that an animal had on somebody because of Joybound?
Okay, I will tell you above all, Purina did a beautiful video series for us before I was involved with the organization. And it was part of my orientation. I sat down and I tell you, there are not enough tissues for me to see those videos. What they were was, so at that time it was purely veterans those who have experienced post-traumatic stress, oftentimes do not want the limelight, do not want the microphone, the camera, do not even want to speak. However, they want to be heard. They need to be heard indirectly. So Purina created this beautiful platform called Letters to Our Service Dog. And the veteran participant, service dog, and the family were seated on a sofa. It's tough for me to get through this, even telling you about it. And the child and children and wives would read this letter to the dog with the veteran sitting there. And it would say, I know, it would say something like, Wilson, thank you for giving me my daddy back. Before you came into our lives, he was always alone and angry. He said words I know I'm not supposed to say. Now he's my friend again. Thank you so much, Wilson. And then the wife would say similar things from her point of view, and her family after family after family sharing these sentiments. So that's a kind of a meta story, but it goes right to the heart of what it's about.
Wow.
Yeah, and we apologize to our listeners who are listening to this on their morning commute and are now crying. We're sorry, but sometimes we like to tug at the heart.
Well, it's the happy tears, right? And that again is the joy in the bond, the joy bound that those people and pets, that service dog participant and their family, are bound together in joy and bound for joy, the future together.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. I'm sure you could share hundreds of stories like that with us today. But with time running out, let us know where we can send people to get more information about Joybound, how to learn more about your services, or to get involved as a volunteer.
Oh, well, we would love that, Kristen. Thank you. Joybound.org. Join us there and comb through that website. Everything that you want to know is there and more. And we would love, love, love to have you consider volunteering. And no matter if you're in our immediate area, and no matter where you are, even $2 of support makes a difference. So we welcome those donations.
Absolutely. Well,
that sounds great. That's joybound.org. Susan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your, I assume, incredibly busy schedule to speak with us today. It's been a real pleasure, and thanks for sharing your story.
Likewise, Chris and Kristen. Thanks again. Have a wonderful day, both of you.
Thanks, Susan.
Pets add life.
Wow, that was pretty impressive. I can't believe how many services they're able to provide. They must have an army of volunteers, and obviously all those services cost a lot of money. So they rely on a lot of
great
donations.
People work there.
Fantastic. They're setting
and it's a really holistic approach to animal rescue. So really great stuff.
It is. Okay, our next guest is Dianne McGill. She's from Pet Peace of Mind, and we talked to her about a few different services that Pet Peace of Mind provides, but this was really something that kind of hit home with me, because back when I worked for an animal shelter, I remember how often it was that pets would be surrendered to the animal shelter because their person was either very ill or had passed away, and there was no plan for that pet when that happened. So thank goodness for Dianne, because she's created services that support that situation. So here she is.
Pets add life.
Well, welcome, Dianne. Dianne McGill.
Thank you.
Yes, you are with Pet Peace of Mind.
Yes.
And we're just delighted to have you here on the show. It goes right along with our mental health awareness theme for this week. So tell us a little bit about Pet Peace of Mind.
Well, the core work of Pet Peace of Mind is working with human hospices to train them on how to put pet care programs for their patients who have pets into place so that they can stay together through the patient's end-of-life journey, and then rehome the pet after the patient passes, so that the patient can truly pass in peace, knowing that their special ability person, or Bend, or Scales, or whatever it might be, will be rehomed to a new loving home. So in our work with Pet Peace of Mind over the last 15 years, and by the way, we turned 15 on May 1st. So
happy birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a really good journey. But last October, in answer to many, many phone calls that we got from people who were not on hospice service, looking for emergency rehoming for their pets, we really started to think through, how do we solve that problem for any pet owner out there, or anyone who follows what's happening in the pet industry. Pets ending up in shelters is a crisis situation. Every shelter is full, every rescue is full. It is nearly impossible to find a place that a homeless pet can go. So we developed a document that actually is a free download from our site that is an advance directive for what will happen to your pet if something happens to you. So one of the things that we really thought through in this whole process is death isn't the only reason that a pet needs a new home. A situation can happen to anyone, anytime. You can be in a domestic violence situation. You can be losing your house and not have a place where you and your pet can live. All of those kinds of factors can enter into what do I do with my beloved companion, either permanently or temporarily. So again, part of what we had to think through is how do we make a document that's fully executable, doesn't cost anything, and is easy to do. So we came up with my pet placement plan and launched it last October. And yay, it's out there.
That sounds like an absolutely amazing program. Can you tell us a bit about what to expect? Let's say an animal ends up in your care. What would let's call them responsibilities. What would their responsibilities be like?
So when it happens within the hospice situation, the volunteer coordinators work with the patients to ask the patients what do they need in terms of pet care, either while they're living or after they pass. And so if it's while they're still living, we have volunteers that will go in and do feeding, walking, waste cleanup, anything that is needed to help care for a pet. If the request is around rehoming after the pet passes, the hospice team will immediately get to work on finding a suitable home. And ideally, the pet is rehomed before the patient passes. And so if it's a rehoming situation, the new home is fully responsible for the pet. They're on the hook just like all of us are with our own pets.
I have a question, Dianne. I know your Pet Peace of Mind is based in Oregon, but does your service extend across beyond that area? Is this a nationwide?
Over the country. Yeah,
wow.
It is. We have hospice, at least one hospice partner, and usually many, many, many. We have almost 300 partners coast to coast.
Wow.
So we're in 48 states now, with everyone's at the ready to help patients that are on their service to make sure that the pet is rehomed. And it isn't dogs and cats. That's certainly every one of our programs does help with dogs and cats. But sometimes the beloved companion doesn't have fur. It might be a horse, it might be a bird, it might be a reptile. So it depends on the person, what are their needs, and then the hospice team and their volunteers who do the pet care part of it actually step up and deliver whatever's needed to make sure that journey keeps them together.
Yeah, that's great. And circling back towards the patients and their care, what type of impact have you seen from having these animals of all sorts involved in that process? Can you speak a little bit about the positive impact the animals have had?
Yes. For people who are bonded to their pets, let me do a little bit of history here. Prior to Pet Peace of Mind, when a patient went on hospice service, the hospice team actually would need to tell them, hey, we do not have any capacity to help you care for your pet. So if you don't have someone who can come in and care for your pet or find a home for your pet, you need to get rid of your pet now. So for any bond that's in place, wow, that is tragic. So that is the first problem and the first impact that Pet Peace of Mind has. We started just as much as a service delivery organization, we started as an advocacy organization to really change that national conversation around what is the value and importance of that human-animal bond when the patient is facing final days. So that part of the impact delivers literally that our name, peace of mind. Every patient that is on hospice that has a Pet Peace of Mind program knows that they will be with their pet until the end, and that their pet will go to a different loving home when they pass. So in terms of actual impact, we help about, our programs nationally help between 7 to 10,000 a year. And then on the heartstring side, there we have dozens of stories from our teams all across the country who share very poignant tales of the pets passing in their owner's arms, or the owner's passing with the pet in their arms, or the pet's on the bed, or some such bonded experience. So it really does deliver that loving bond until the end.
I was just going to say, I just can't imagine the comfort that affords the patient, in such a, at a tough time, to know that they can have their pet there and that their pet is going to be cared for after they're gone. How did you start Pet Peace of Mind 15 years ago?
Yeah, so I was running another national animal welfare nonprofit, and our mission was keeping pets and people together. So we got lots of different calls. We had 11 different programs, 10 at the time. We had 10 different programs that served various slices of the pet owning community that all rolled up to keeping pets and people together. One day we got a call from a woman in Florida who was trying to help her best friend, who had 3 cats. And it was a bad situation with her son. She was living with her son, and it was a very bad situation. Son wanted to get rid of the cats, and the women wanted to keep the cats, and it was not a good thing. So her friend was highly allergic and could not do anything really to help except be her voice out in the world. So her friend started calling around looking for a program like Pet Peace of Mind, and discovered it didn't exist. So that was our niche that needed to be filled. It literally sprang from necessity is the mother of invention. So we gathered a group of hospices and framed a program, piloted it with one hospice in Oklahoma, and from there it was nothing but grow, and we've been growing it ever since.
Well,
That's
thank you
truly
for
an
filling,
amazing story.
for filling that need.
Yeah, absolutely. And suppose we have some pet parents listening at home who want to get involved in some capacity. How could they be helpful? I see your website is petpeaceofmind.org. So
Yes.
they can head over there. But what types of way can people get involved in this program?
So if someone is interested in volunteering, they can actually go to our website. There's a email contact place on that, info@petpeaceofmind.org. And we need to know where do they live, what's their city and state. And then we will look at our list of partners and pass that volunteer's name on to the closest partner. And then the hospice will be in touch with the person to figure out, what do they want to do, how do they want to volunteer, etc. So we're the conduit for sending volunteers to the right hospice.
Well, Dianne, and I assume the same for anyone who is needing the service, can also find that information on your website.
Yes. There's a list of program partners. One of the tabs on our navigation bar is Fund a Program. So for somebody who is about to go on hospice, or a family member who's looking for a program for planning hospice, it's a good, we find out closest one to you. And our download for the My Pet Placement Plan also is on the homepage of our website. So I know that everyone who watches this is going to be a pet owner. If you don't
Yeah.
have an advance directive for your pets, please make one. Please, please, please make one. The reason, the number one reason, and an overwhelming number one reason that pets are in shelters is something happened to their person, and their person could care for them. So please make an advance directive for your pet.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing we don't
That's
think
a
about.
great
We don't like to
message,
think
Dianne.
about, but so important.
Really, that's very true, Kristen. You don't think about it. And actually, when we did our research to put this program, this new initiative together, was the number one reason that people didn't have an advance directive to their pets. Like, I never thought about it. I don't think about anything happening to me, especially younger people. Younger people think nothing will ever happen, but things
Right.
do happen. And so,
Yeah, I'm still convinced that I'm young and invincible. So
and invincible. Except,
which
Chris,
is
I bet if you had kids, I bet you'd have a place, though, where your kids would grow if something happened to you.
yeah, I think that's
So-
the missing piece of the puzzle because I'm just a
Because-
humble cat dad, no human babies quite yet. Dianne, thanks again for spreading this important message. The website again, folks, if you'd like to get involved to come up with your advanced direction for your pet, God forbid something happens, petpeaceofmind.org. So be sure to check out Dianne's website. And Dianne, we're at time, but thank you so much for coming on the
Yes,
show and spreading this
absolutely.
very important message. I know it's not something our viewers at home want to think about, but it's something they should think about
Absolutely.
just in case
Yeah.
anything were to happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Dianne.
having me.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. And that was great to hear from Dianne. I know that was a bit heavy and a little more intense than our usual programming, but it's important. I know it's something you don't want to think about, but it is important to have a plan just in case anything were to happen. Having that peace of mind, knowing that your animal will be taken care of is important. So be sure to check out the resources Dianne can provide.
The product of the week.
All right, Chris, it is time for product of the week.
Product of the week.
All right. So my product is this is one of Tulip's favorite things that I bought for her. And Tulip, in case you don't know, she's my little 4-year-old rescue. She's a miniature pinscher Chihuahua mix. And she absolutely loves this car seat that I bought for her. It goes in the in the second row seat, so behind the passenger seat. And what's cool about it is it's raised. It's one of the Snoozer brand, and it's called the Lookout Dog car seat. So it lifts her up. So because she's little, so if she was sitting in the seat, she would not be able to see out the window. And she absolutely loves it. So she's propped up. It's got a little harness that buckles into the seatbelt so that, if I hit the brakes too fast or God forbid there's an accident, she wouldn't be flying forward in the front seat. But she loves it. She gets excited. Whenever we go for car rides, she jumps up and she just watches the world go by.
That's amazing. So is it a safety product too? Does it help keep the animals safe in the car, or is it really just a booster?
Well, I think it's both. I think it's a booster first, but it does have a strap. So you take the seat belt and it's got notches in the seat that you pull that crossover piece across and you buckle it in. But then there's another little strap that you then attach to the back of her harness. So it's connecting her to the bed, and the bed is connected to the seat. So it is a safety product as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've got a safety product to recommend myself here. So with summer coming up, I've decided to tailor some of my products of the week towards some fun summer stuff. Summer's a great time to be a pet owner. Really easy to find yourself outdoors and enjoying the beach or hikes or any of those other wonderful activities that I am not aware of because I'm an indoors kid. But I saw some really fun life jackets. And now I know a lot of people who take their animals out on boats and don't use life jackets. And they are fools. They are foolish. If you are planning on bringing your dog out into water, use a life jacket. One thing dogs are not good at is managing their energy. Okay? Think about it.
Great
when
point.
you come home from work, they freak out and they run around in circles, and then they're panting super heavily. They're not good at regulating their level of energy. the last thing you want is for your dog to get excited that they see water, run out in there, get too far out, and then lose the ability to keep themselves afloat. So these life jackets are super cute. The brand that I found, I believe, is called SUNFURA. And they have ones that'll turn your dog into either a little mermaid or a shark or other little
I love the
ocean
shark
creatures.
ones with the little shark fins.
Yeah.
Those are so cute.
Very similar to a harness fit. So if your dog wears a harness, it'll be something that they're used to. And it'll keep them looking real cute for summer. So you don't have to go with that brand, but definitely if you're planning on being on the water this summer, get a life jacket for your animal.
Yeah. Even if they know how to swim. Great.
Even if they know how to swim.
Bringing up that point about dogs not being able to manage their energy.
Yeah, it's true. Yep. I could barely do it too. I mean, by the time I'm going to bed, I'm exhausted. I wake up in the morning exhausted.
Do you have a shark life vest that you wear?
I don't. What I do, I wear, and lifeguards are going to get upset with me. I diaper my life jacket. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where you put it on your legs and up to your waist, and you could sort of rock back and sit. It's so not the proper way to wear your life jacket. So I do not formally endorse it. But it is a great way to relax in shallow water and have yourself a beverage. More summer tips from Chris next week.
Q&As.
I think it's time for us to take some questions from the audience, Kristen.
Yes, it is time. Let's do it. And you can leave your question if you have a question about pets or products or anything like that. You can just go to the okay, wait, I might screw this up. Do you go to petsadlife.org/podcast and then scroll down, or is that the dog TV?
That would work.
Okay, either one.
You could also do dogtv.com/pal podcast. There's all sorts of ways to find us.
Bottom line, you can type out your question and send it in, or you can leave us a voice message with your question, which we would love to hear your voice. Okay, so the first one, Chris, is from Linda in Springfield, Illinois. She says, my daughter's been asking for a bunny. What are the key considerations we should keep in mind before deciding to bring a rabbit into the home?
Great question. And there are some key considerations. The first is that rabbits are not easy animals. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people just think because it's not a dog or a cat, it'll be easy to take care of. And you see that a lot with fish too.
Yeah.
Rabbits are a lot of work. They have a lot of energy that they want to get out. They tend to make a mess of things, and they don't really receive training well. So it's important to consider, what space is this animal going to occupy? Where am I going to lay litter for this animal? Mm-hmm. Where am I going to lay bedding for this animal? And how am I going to keep this animal stimulated? So it's not, I'm not trying to say, no, little Susie, you can't have you can't have a rabbit. But it's just like going out and homing a dog or a cat, where you have to think through what your life is going to be like with that animal. I'd recommend, when you go to your local pet shop, asking the person who works there a little bit about the care of that animal and what would go into it. I recommend having that conversation with your daughter, not present. Make that a solo trip, sort of some information gathering before you decide if that's the right move for you and your family. Yeah,
and a couple things to add. There's a really great resource called the House Rabbit Society that has all kinds of great content on how to care for a rabbit. And let's see, I don't think she said how old her daughter. Yeah, Linda didn't mention the age of her daughter, but rabbits are also fragile. And so I would say probably children under 7 might not be ideal for a bunny. Your child should be able to learn to very gently hold them and hold them properly too. Yeah. But on the upside, rabbits can be litter box trained, and they're quite social. They actually do best in pairs, but if you get pairs, make sure you get 2 females or 2 males. So,
yeah, we all know what rabbits do.
Yes, we do. Okay,
I've
great.
got
Thank
a question here,
Yeah.
Kristen, from Michael in Denver, Colorado. Hello, Michael. His question is, I've been thinking about switching my dog to a raw food diet. What are the benefits and potential risks associated with raw feeding? And how can I ensure it's balanced?
Well, that's a very good question.
Great question.
Raw is a very hot trend now, and for good reason. It's very good nutrition. But I guess when I think of raw, some people think of raw as like literally raw. Like, is Michael planning on actually making raw food meals for his pet, because if that's the case, I would recommend that you get something that is available from your local pet supply store. There's frozen raw. There's also bags of air dried raw, freeze dried raw. There's a lot of ways you can feed raw these days that kind of take the effort out of it, and also the challenges with safety from doing it like on your own.
Yeah, definitely do not recommend doing it on your own. I would definitely echo that. The second thing I would say is a lot of people just assume that raw is better because if they always say if the dog was in the wild, they wouldn't know how to cook, which you're right. You're right. I've never seen a dog, do some fried rice or something like that. But it's also important to note that we as human beings over the past 10,000 years have fundamentally changed the course of evolution for dogs. They are actually omnivorous, so they still require things outside of meat to have a complete balanced diet. And their gut bacteria has also fundamentally changed. So pure raw food may not be as easily digestible. So what I would recommend if your dog is on a diet now and you're considering switching to raw, allow that to be gradual and inevitably just supplemental to to their diet. I wouldn't recommend it being 100% of your dog's consumption.
Great advice, Chris. I think that might be a wrap for this show today.
I think so. Episode 13, and nothing bad happened, although I suppose there's still like 15 seconds. If you liked episode 13, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Like and subscribe on wherever you're listening. If you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments. We'd love to tailor this show to your ears specifically. And again, if you'd like your question answered on the show, head on over to petsadlife.org/podcast. Scroll down to the bottom. You could type out your question, or if you're feeling mighty brave, can record us a voice memo. So, Kristen, until next time, I believe that's it.
That's right. See you then.
Pets Add Life.